First off, this is not an immigration video where I'm going to be telling you how you're going to jackpot as a fashion student. I can bring value to the table. Open the table. What's there? I will bring brocoto. I will bring pomo. I will bring shaki. Have you guys experienced such? Dudum. No, but tell me, how does it feel to be seeing me back to back to back to... Like, how does it feel to be seeing my face on your screen every week? I know. It's just beyond words. It's beyond words. Can't explain. I'm so grateful to God. And of course, our sponsor for this video, Mr. Aka Nani. I'm borrowing all his gears, his mic, his camera. And so shout out to you, husband. He's not around, so I can do all this. And even when he's around, I can kind of sneak my way around the things, you know? Rawr. Today's topic is very interesting. Is a master's in fashion or a degree in fashion abroad worth it? And I'm going to be answering that question. So if you aren't already subscribed, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up. And I'm going to give you all the tea regarding a fashion design degree abroad and even in Nigeria. On this channel, we dive into topics like setting and achieving your personal goals. Whether you're looking to improve your financial habits or even just have clarity in your relationships, you are in the right place. So a little background about me. I've delved into different creative backgrounds and I have a couple of videos about it already, and I'll tag one here where I talked about my career path. So I have an architecture degree. I also have a master's in fashion from Kingston University. In between those two degrees, I also have a graduate diploma in creative practice. I almost did a PhD because I love books so much, but I chose a path of creative entrepreneurship instead. I started a workshop where I teach fashion, and I've always done this since 2015. And this workshop grew so much that we've taught over 500 students. Am I the right person to talk to you about a fashion degree? Definitely. Life as a fashion student in the UK. First off, this is not an immigration video where I'm going to be telling you how you're going to jackpot as a fashion student. In fact, I don't even think that pathway is as flexible as many other pathways. So if you're thinking about it like jackpot, just forget about it for now. I'm not your girl. So I'm going to start by talking to you a little bit about my experience as a fashion student in the UK. I was there for about 2 years. So because I didn't have a bachelor's degree in fashion, I needed more time in that environment to sort of prove that I can actually become a master in this subject. My portfolio as a fashion illustrator and designer is what I actually used to get the admission. In most cases, you are unable to get an admission if you don't already have a bachelor's degree with a portfolio, especially if you're applying to one of the top 5 best fashion universities in the world. Like, guys, you want to go with a bachelor's degree in English? No. So I was lucky enough to have that experience. I'm going to break down this video into a few parts. So why I chose fashion design in the UK, what a day in my life looks like, the challenges of being an African fashion student, the opportunities and perks included. I'll give like tips to prospective fashion students if you have completely decided that this is the route that you want to go. So in a few words, I would say that my experience as a fashion student was challenging. I cried a few tears, but I made it to the end. Think about it from my perspective. I didn't have an undergraduate in fashion. I never went to sewing school, fashion school. I just had innate knowledge. Like I just came to this earth and I knew a lot of things. I also loved to watch a lot of fashion content, videos, or whatever. I would like to even say that I was more self-taught than anything else. So going to do a master's, they're expecting you to come and be a master. They're expecting you to even already be a master, but you're just going to prove yourself and then they give you pali at the end. It's been a very long time since my fashion masters. I graduated in 2017 for my masters, and so a lot of the information is quite foggy. But I remember that I chose Kingston because it seemed like the only school that was a little bit flexible on my bachelor's degree. I wouldn't necessarily say that it would have been the best school for me, because what I really wanted was to be able to stay back in the UK and develop my skills working in fashion companies while being in the UK. A lot of times, if you're going through a fashion design path, this opportunity is very rare. It's mostly available for people who are doing undergraduate study. And so there'll be times where you will do an internship or they will send you out for volunteering. Whatever the case is, there is more access for undergraduate students. To be honest, I don't even think I'll be able to do this video like in a very coordinated sentence of, oh, challenges, opportunities. As they come my head, I'm just going to say it, right? I actually wish that I did an undergrad instead of a master's. I was very fixated on the idea of having a master's, and I don't think that honestly really helped me much, because a lot of things that were being taught I already knew. So, I excelled. Obviously, I excelled until it got to a part where I had to sew. And they're not going to teach you how to sew while you're doing a master's. They expect that you're coming there with already a knowledge in pattern cutting, a knowledge in sewing and finishing, knowledge in fabric sourcing, etc. So for someone who had mostly worked as a 2D expert for fashion companies, most of my work ended with my sketches, or sometimes I would even experiment with draping, etc. But it never really went into a final garment. I never made a final garment for myself, except for one Oleku outfit that I did like when I was in like 2010 or something. And also, like, I came from a background where my parents were very fixated also on the idea of a master's, and if it was not a master's in architecture, I needed to go and master something. And so I was like, you know what, let's master in fashion design, since I really love it so much. While I was applying for my master's, I also had just started my fashion workshop. So I was experimenting with entrepreneurship. So another thing I could have done instead of a fashion design degree was probably a fashion management business course, or a fashion business course, or a MBA generally. My advice is, if you already know a lot about fashion, there's no point really doing a master's in fashion if there is no caveat to it. Like, if they're not going to send you to work in Marc Jacobs, if they're not going to put you on the best platforms, if they're not going to help your career, there really is no point. And sometimes I just go on Facebook and just check out like what's happening with my former colleagues from school, and I'm not really seeing much happening. I'm not really seeing much happening. Maybe they're just not putting on socials, but I know that if fantastic things were happening to people would most likely share. So I really feel like fashion in masters was not really a great thing for most of us. I would also like to say that in the fashion industry, there are so many roles, and that's the problem in Nigeria. A lot of people, once they have interest in fashion, they're just thinking, I want to be a designer, I want to be a designer. There's so many roles in the fashion industry that you could explore. There is buying, there is merchandising, there's visual merchandising, there's pattern cutting, there's training, there is seamstress. Like, you can be a seamstress. You can be an expert in finishing without feeling like you're a tailor. Like, guys, there is embroidery, there is textile design, there's textile making, there's fashion marketing, there's fashion law. I remember at some point I even used to call myself like a fashion architect. If you're considering it, you need to do a very, very thorough research concerning the school options that you have, and spread your bread out on many water. Like, target London, but also target schools outside of London. Target the US, target, South Africa. I know of some really good schools in South Africa. Target Italy, Paris, there are many places, Milan. Try many places, and just see which one works. In hindsight, I would even do like a short course, like major short courses in specific areas that I want to gain knowledge in. If you have a lot of money in your pockets, yes, I mean, you can go and do whatever you please. But if you don't really have that much money, I would not say that you should take out a lot of that chunk of money and go and drop it. 44,000, sometimes even 66,000 pounds for school fees. And this is just school fees. You haven't thought about your accommodation, your living condition, like your clothing, your feeding. It's a lot of money that goes into going for a master's in a very top-notch school. My experience in my first year schooling in the UK was very tough. So for the most part, you most likely be 1 out of 3 Black people in your class. You most likely have a lot of Asian students in your class that barely speak good English. So even when you're speaking, they'll all be amazed, like, how is this Black girl speaking English? Very annoying, very, very ignorant. But you would meet these situations where people are just maybe perplexed or jealous or confused as to how you're able to communicate very clearly. You would probably even be idolized. Like, a lot of people would just be so amazed. I think that was even most of the time my situation. They were always just amazed by how I could speak and communicate, and obviously I took advantage of this and applied for a job within the school. I'm not just a random Black student, so it's just doing fashion. Like, I can bring value to the table. Open the table, what's there? I will bring brocoto, I will bring Momo, I will bring Shaki. Have you guys experienced such? They haven't, so they don't know quality of texture. I will bring all that to the table. Yeah. So obviously because of all that, I experienced culture shock as well. There were many times where I would feel very depressed and frustrated because all these other students had access to so much money. You hear them even talk about like how their government gave them £10,000 for library, and they will be entering the class with Gucci, Prada, like they'll be entering the class like this, looking rich. And so if you that are not content, you that your eye is not fixed on the important things, you'll be feeling like tensioned and everything. If you struggle with social anxiety, that could be something. So one thing that really did help me was still find a community, or even still just try to be friends with people regardless of their cultural background. So a typical day in the life would be, going for lectures. There were not many teaching lectures, but you have like projects that you would need to do in between the week. You need to find ways to collaborate, which that's what I did. I had to find other students that I could collaborate with to make my work easier. Not always being like a person that really keeps records of personal experiences. I really wish I had all the videos and things to show you, but maybe I did record things, but I just don't have my hard drive anymore, so I've lost a lot of footage. But I remember that I had very amazing experiences during those seminars, very like mind-blowing thoughts that I had. I was very motivated to be a philosophical thinker in the industry, in the fashion industry. I was doing a lot of research concerning even African fashion and how I could be like a culture shaker. During even my master's, there are a lot of books that I got to read. The library was just fantastic. There's so many things that you get access to that you wouldn't typically get in any school here in Nigeria. Not one. If you even join all the schools together that do fashion, not half. Like, you will not get half of it in terms of the access to resources and things. There were times that because I was a master's student, I could go and lend a camera and a mic or whatever. I could lend certain things for periods of time and return it. That was when I had the idea, let me start my YouTube channel. And I did record some videos, but it never made it to the mainstream. But this was all the way in 2016. Like, I used to record videos in my dormitory that time. Guys, I cannot emphasize, like, I was so frustrated with the sewing and the cutting parts because I was literally learning while other people already knew this thing. So I was reading books, I was trying things, I would cry, I don't know, it was very frustrating, but I eventually got a hang of it and I did it. Like, I made clothes at the end of my course, like I did. And because it's also a master's, you're not expected. In fact, I didn't know this was my dad that had to like really get me to think like, you are not expected to sit down and be sewing these things yourself. They want you to just come up with the designs and do the basic work of being the head and supervisor, whatever. You can hire someone to actually make the clothes for you, which I did for some of my very complicated pieces. And by the way, I did menswear. I did menswear for my fashion degree. I know. There's so many parts of like this topic that I would not even be able to completely cover, and maybe I'll cover them in like other videos, like time management, creative block, how I dealt with creative blocks. Because yes, I did have creative blocks even when I was studying. And then maybe cultural adjustments. There's not much to talk about that. You just actually have to be a joyful person, a friendly person, and understand. I mean, for myself, what I understood was that I'm already formed. My complete identity is in Christ, and so no culture could help form my identity. My accent did not really change like that. I was really very Nigerian in terms of the way that I was. I was also very much in church. So when I would go through these ups and downs, depressing ups and downs, there were many times that the word of God would just elevate my heart, Somehow during my master's, like towards the end of my master's, I did feel lost. And I mean, useful exuberance. I got entwined in some things that I didn't necessarily need to be intertwined with. There are many opportunities while you're doing a master's One thing I also didn't do was completely stay locked up in the creative space of the university. I explored the business side of, I made friends in the business side, I made friends in the psychology side. I was just going in and out because networking was very important. So I would really advise that if you find yourself in, a school abroad, network. That's the point of you being there. I wish I had more time to do it because I started doing this towards the ending because I was so busy trying to figure out my life and figure out this fashion thing that I didn't have much time to network with the people that I felt like would benefit my life in the future. Not many like industry placements or industry opportunities per se that we were completely exposed to. Yes, we're exposed to a few people, a few really great people that were doing amazingly in the design space, but there was not really much like one-on-one mentoring or those type of things, So yeah, but in the end, there is a lot goes into your mindset. Like you actually need to know what your goal is for yourself. Like in the next 3 years, like what do you really want to do with that master's? What's the goal for yourself? You have to create for yourself a mindset that is resilient, because would it get tough? Yes, it will get tough. So you need to be resilient. Don't try to throw away your African culture, whatever. They love it, guys. They eat it like milk. They are intrigued by hearing about cultures and research. I love research. I love to read about different things, and so you need to be able to have a reading ability. You need to be able to have time management and constantly keep building your portfolio. If you need to get a job in between, get a job. So this is what my life was as a fashion design student in the UK. It had its ups and downs, but for the most part, I'm really grateful for my parents who were able to support me through my course in the UK. I love you, mommy. I love you, daddy. You guys did one for me. I know that for my daughter, I'm definitely going to try out a different approach in terms of her education and career journey and path or placement or whatever the word is. So I encourage you to share this video, give it a thumbs up, comment if there's anything that was interesting, you liked hearing about it. Whatever the case is, please guys, just give it a thumbs up. Like, I really enjoyed shooting this video and just kind of recounting a few of my experiences. Again, I'm Claire Idera and this is Claire Speaking, signing off.